In the world of quantity surveying, one tiny mistake can end up costing millions. And a lot of the time, that mistake comes down to something that sounds simple, choosing the wrong unit of measurement. Today, we're going to break down the core system that pros use to get it right every single time.
So let's talk about the stakes here. Just how high are they? Well, in construction, a project's success or failure can literally hang on these smallest details. Imagine getting the measurement for a shipment of concrete wrong. You've just wasted thousands of dollars. Same thing for pipes, for tiles, even for light fixtures. It all starts with one fundamental error.
And there you have it. Just let that sink in for a second. This isn't just some little clerical error, it's a domino effect. One wrong unit just cascades through the entire budget, and that can lead to material shortages, crazy project delays, and total financial disaster.
So, here's the golden rule, the absolute bedrock of the profession. Every single item that goes into a project has a correct unit. It doesn't matter if you're measuring a pipe by its length or just counting up individual fixtures, there is a standard. There's simply no room for guesswork.
So, how do the pros make sure they nail this every single time? Well, it's not about memorizing a million different things. It's about understanding a really clear, really logical system. And that system? It's built on just 4 fundamental categories.
Yep, it all boils down to just 4 types of measurement. Basically, anything you can find on a construction site can be measured by its length, its area, its volume, or you can just count it. Let's start with the most basic one, length.
First up, we've got what we call linear items, and the name kind of says it all, right? Think of anything that's defined mostly by its length, from point A to point B. We're not worried about how wide or deep it is just yet, just how long it is.
You see this stuff all the time. The most classic examples, pipes for plumbing, or those electrical cables that are snaking through the walls. For items like these, the main thing that drives the cost is how much length you need. That's what you order, and that's how you price the job to install it.
And so the standard unit for all of these linear items is the meter. Not centimeters, not kilometers. Sticking to meters is what keeps everything consistent across the whole project.
Okay, so let's build on that. We've just handled one dimension, length. Now let's add a second one. We're moving from a line to a flat surface. We're talking about items that cover an area.
Think about plaster going on a wall or tiles covering a floor. Sure, the thickness of the plaster matters for how much material you need, but the primary cost, the main driver, is the surface area you've got to cover.
So it just makes sense, right? The unit here is square meters. It's simply length times width. This one calculation tells a contractor exactly how much plaster to order, or exactly how many boxes of tiles they're going to need to get the job done. You can probably see the pattern here. We went from 1 dimension to 2, and now, you guessed it, we're adding a third. This category is for all the items that are measured by the total space they occupy, their length, their width, and their depth. For instance, when you're pouring a concrete foundation, you have to calculate the volume of the space it's going to fill. And it's the same thing when you're digging a trench. You're not just making a line in the ground, you're removing a very specific volume of earth. So the unit has to be cubic meters. This is absolutely crucial for ordering bulk materials like concrete and for pricing out the cost of, say, hauling all that soil away from a site.
All right, our last category is actually the most straightforward one of all. Some things, well, they just don't fit neatly into measurements of length or area or volume. For these, you simply have to count them.
I'm talking about things like doors, windows, sinks, light fixtures. These are all separate, individual items. You don't measure a door in meters, right? You just count how many doors you need. So the unit is simply number. You'll often see it abbreviated as NO. How many do we need? 10 doors, 25 light fixtures. It's simple, it's clean, and it's pretty much impossible to misinterpret.
Okay, so we've got our 4 categories: linear, surface, volume, and numbered. But just knowing that list isn't enough. A professional quantity surveyor has this mental process they go through to apply this knowledge correctly every time.
And this is that process, basically boiled down to 3 simple questions. First, you ask yourself, what am I actually measuring? Okay, let's say it's a brick wall. Second, how is it constructed? Well, it's got a length and it's got a height, so it's a surface. And that leads you to the final question. So, what unit best represents that? In this case, it's square meters. This systematic approach is the secret weapon for preventing errors.
All right, let's bring this all home. We've seen the units, we've talked about the mindset. Now, let's circle right back to the beginning and remember why this matters so much.
This right here is the bottom line. If you measure pipes, a linear item, in square meters, your cost is going to be astronomically wrong. And if you try to estimate a concrete foundation, a volume item, just by its length, you won't have nearly enough material to do the job. Every single error hits the budget and it hits the build. At the end of the day, using the right units is so much more than a technical detail. It's a shield. It protects the client's budget, it protects the contractor's resources, and it protects the financial integrity of the entire project. It is the absolute foundation of any reliable estimate. And that's the whole idea, really, breaking down these professional practices into a framework that's clear and that just makes sense. Once you see the logic behind it, it becomes simple.
So I'll leave you with a final thought. Just take a quick look around the room you're in right now. That charging cable for your phone? That's a linear item. The paint on your walls? That's a surface item, measured by area.